49, time and again. Standing in the middle of a white, underground experimentation room, Ryan let out a groan. "I need to go to the bathroom." "Too late, asshole," Jasmine replied, as she used a screwdriver to close the armor's lightweight alloy chest plate, leaving only the courier's head exposed. Eugene Henry Schrödinger meowed at her side, looking at his master with curiosity. "But I added a urine recycling system if you want to drink your own piss." Charming. Ryan's body didn't feel so heavy, even if he wore a 25-kilogram suit of armor. The weight was evenly distributed to lessen the strain on his muscles, and the servos provided additional strength. While the courier wouldn't be able to move as fast as in his glamorous suit, he could probably punch through concrete. As per his demand, Jasmine had painted the armor purple, with orange lenses for the helmet's eyes. Though Ryan looked like an oversized humanoid bug in it, he would remain outrageously flashy, and that was all that mattered. Hell, his armor's design matched Vulcan's own. Wasn't that adorable? Ryan had also memorized its schematics, so he could rebuild it in a future loop if needed. Separated from a control area by a door and plexiglass window, the place used to be an underground police interrogation room before the wars. Jasmine had repurposed it into a lab, even managing to complete the armor in a matter of days using available material. The makeshift workshop was a far cry from Vulcan's previous foundry, but it was sufficient. They didn't even have to lie about that project, not completely at least. Vulcan had promised Augustus that she would work on a new type of armor capable of enhancing Ryan's power, and the would-be emperor had given his seal of approval. It seemed the courier's power had left a good impression on Lightning, or he just didn't care anymore after his daughter's demise. Say what you wanted about the Augusti, but they got things done. Should have figured it out sooner, Jasmine grumbled, as she grabbed the last part of the armor she hadn't put on Ryan yet, the helmet. "You were just too fucking perfect." Was it a repeat performance? Did you fine-tune your sweet talking until it worked? No, though Ryan had centuries of experience with women, so he knew what made people tick. "You tried to kill me in a previous loop." "Did I succeed?" she asked, almost hopeful. "Nope. Not even close." "A shame. Guess I might succeed this time." "It's fine, half my girlfriends tried to kill me at one point or another," Ryan replied with a smirk. "I'm a masochist." "I know you are," Jasmine replied with a chuckle, though her mood quickly soured. "I've got a request, Ryan." "A request from you?" Ryan asked, quite surprised. Vulcan didn't do requests, she gave orders. "How can I refuse? If this fails, and it won't fail, because I'm a genius," Jasmine gathered her breath, as if admitting the mere possibility of failure took a colossal effort on her part. "But let's assume that if it fails, I won't be able to transfer your mind." In Ryan's experience, failure would be the rule, and a potential success the exception.
"Yeah.
Right, Sherlock," she snapped, clenching her teeth. "If I don't make it, it means I will cease to exist. The me right now. You will just lose your memories," Ryan argued. "Don't be so pessimistic. It's amnesia, not death. I will lose memories of things I haven't done. Stop kidding yourself, Ryan. I'll be erased, end of the story." She let out a sigh as if bracing herself for death. "So, if I don't make it, I want you to leave my other self alone. Make sure she lives and doesn't go to corpo jail, but don't pull off your summer fling crap on her. Don't replace me with another Jasmine." "I understand," Ryan said. "Before, I said you wouldn't forget me, and I mean it now. Even if I disappear, promise you won't forget me." "I promise." He had made that oath before and always kept it. The helmet in her hands, Jasmine pushed her lips against Ryan's. The courier put his hands behind her waist, the armor clinking as it moved, and held her tight. It was a passionate, intense kiss. He felt as if Vulcan wanted to eat him on the spot. This may be their last. Don't forget that, Jasmine said upon breaking the embrace and putting the helmet on Ryan's face. The courier started to breathe with a respirator and see the world through lenses. Vulcan then tried to grab Schrödinger, but the cat stubbornly refused to get caught. I think he wants to stay, Jasmine mused. It's a Schrödinger's cat, Ryan replied, easily seizing the cat in his armored arms. He'll improve the odds. Whatever, I hope he has enough lives remaining, Jasmine replied, closing the room's door behind her. The genius sat next to a control panel beyond the window, sparing her boyfriend one last glance before starting her work. The plan was for Ryan to open a rift to the purple world with his enhanced power. Though the courier had never succeeded in doing so for centuries, it should allow for physical time travel, at least in theory. It was a far-fetched plan, even a risky one, but they had exhausted all other options. Since they had lost the necessary tech for a consciousness transfer and Europe would soon erupt in conflict, there was no other way for Jasmine to survive the restart. The chances were slim, but one could always hope. If you think you might die, why are you going along with it? Ryan asked Jasmine as she began hitting buttons on her control panel, fine-tuning the armor's functions. Schrödinger waited, strangely silent. You could keep me chained up in your basement. Don't tempt me, Jasmine replied, pulling a lever on her control panel. Words and numbers started to appear on Ryan's lenses, the suit systems activating. Roughly 8 million people live in New Rome and its countryside. The meta killed what, 2-3 million of them? No matter how I see it, 1 versus 3 million. You would have to be a huge dick to consider it a fair deal. Some would have thought otherwise, Ryan admitted. One genius tried to keep his brain in storage in an old loop, to prevent the courier from reloading. That's why I tried to keep my secret under wraps after a few betrayals. Poor you, Jasmine mocked him, before looking at the armor regretfully. I was a hero once. Ryan said nothing. I just wanted to change the world. Make an impact. Like your Len girl is doing, though she doesn't get it yet. I guess that's why I wanted you on my team, Ryan. I had the feeling we were going to do great things together. We are, Ryan reassured her.
Yeah,
She replied, stopping her work to look at him through the window. Make sure this disaster never happens again, okay? Kill that fat ass. I'm killing him in every single loop from now on, I promise, Ryan said, frowning. If I told the Augusti about the bunker. No, don't, unless I follow you. At best, Augustus will blow up Rusttown like he did now, casualties be damned. At worst. I don't want to think about it. Vulcan clenched her fists, scowling. If I don't make it, go to Laura. I'm sorry, have I misheard? Ryan asked, astonished. You want me to go? I was jealous, all right, the genius snapped, interrupting her boyfriend. Because she's so fucking perfect. And now she just apologizes? It's sickening. Ryan didn't answer, letting Vulcan vent out all her pent-up frustration. He had the feeling that the short genius had invested so much in her bitter rivalry with her former teammate, that she had no idea what to do now that Wyvern had thrown in the towel. Maybe with time, Jasmine would learn to move on. To stop hating. If she had time. I know her better than anyone, Jasmine grumbled in admission. She'll help getting rid of that bunker, if only because she's too stupid to see the possibilities. She isn't corrupt, just goddamn naive. Ryan wasn't sure if it was meant to be a compliment or an insult. Knowing Jasmine, probably both. Do you regret joining the Augusti? The courier asked his girlfriend. She considered the question for a few seconds. No, I don't regret it, Vulcan finally said. It wasn't the best choice, but it was mine. If that makes sense. It didn't, but the courier accepted it all the same. In any case, the genius finished typing on the control panel and looked through the window. Ryan, we're ready. Open the path to that purple world, for the both of us. I will do all I can. Do or don't. There is no try. Both burst out laughing. Ryan couldn't believe they even shared the same love for pop culture. Truly, they had been a match made in mafia heaven. Even if it ended terribly, this loop had been something special. Gathering his breath and holding Schrödinger in his arms, Ryan activated his time stop. Now was the moment of truth. The world turned violet, as the purple world and their universe converged. Instead of freezing in time, Vulcan's armor kept working inside the temporal anomaly. Even if the experiment failed, at least Ryan could upgrade his arsenal for later runs. 2 seconds within the time stop, the courier immediately noticed something unusual. Bright violet particles began to appear inside the interrogation room, swirling points of light coming off from his person. They floated around the room, even as the universe remained frozen. The armor was meant to focus Ryan's power, to fully harvest the theoretical violet flux radiation that powered spacetime manipulators. Could this be those particles? As 2 seconds turned into 3, 4, then 5, the number of these lights only increased at an exponential rate, from a few dozens to thousands, shrouding everything around him. Their color turned from bright violet to purple, and they grew from the size of fireflies to bubbles. At this point, Ryan reached the 10 seconds limit and decided to stop before he accidentally made a new save. This was a mere initial test to access more power from the purple world, but it wasn't worth setting New Rome's destruction in stone. The genome hastily cancelled his power. But the world remained frozen. In fact, the number of particles around him only increased, until they drowned his sight entirely. Schrödinger, Jasmine, the entire room vanished behind a veil of colored bubbles. Jasmine? Ryan attempted to move, but his body refused to. Or rather, the armor didn't follow his movement, keeping his limbs encased in steel. He couldn't even sense Schrödinger in his arms. Jasmine, I can't stop. No one answered. The veil of purple bubbles split open, finally allowing Ryan to see through the armor's lenses. But instead of the interrogation room, the courier looked at an icy, silent wasteland beneath a dark sky. Was this Antarctica? It would fit the stars' positions in the skies. Strangely, while the bubbles remained at the edge of his vision and the armor refused to move, Ryan saw snow move with the wind. It felt like watching a 3D movie from an outside perspective. Ryan's viewpoint focused on a dark metal dome emerging from the snow, perhaps a research station or something similar. His vision glitched out, showing a mahogany desk in a darkened room. 3 figures spoke around a table, although Ryan couldn't see them clearly, they appeared as phantoms made of blue particles. These higher dimensions defy physics and our understanding. A woman's voice. Yet, to master these alien worlds and conquer the stars is mankind's destiny. To survive, even thrive, in this hostile universe, humanity must ascend to a higher state. From man to overman, from Homo sapiens to Homo novice. Ascension through genetic engineering. A similar voice, but slightly different. Ryan couldn't explain it, but it seemed like the same actor voicing 2 characters. But governments and institutions will try to stop us, to preserve the status quo. Those old fossils can't see what's up ahead, they live in the past, while the future came to us with this craft. We were warned. Old nations are fragile things that will crumble to dust, or they will adapt. The chaos we will unleash is well within our budget. What was that? A vision of the past? The scene glitched out again, and this time he could only hear broken voices. Purple particles obscured his vision, like a VHS tape suffering from a breakdown. There is no place for black. Out of all the colors, it alone can't be safely harnessed. The creatures within the black dimension do not seem malicious, but their mere existence tears our lower reality apart. Physical laws cannot coexist with paradoxes. All the ultimate ones are compassionate, but also narrow-minded. They only understand lower universes through the prism of their color. Limitless power without complexity. Or perhaps they see farther than we do. The veil of purple parted ways, revealing a green meadow populated with white rabbit plushies, dozens of them. They all looked at him, raising their ears as if they could see him through time and space. Their fur was covered in blood, and the courier noticed a dismembered human corpse hidden behind tall grass. "Hi," Ryan said. The plushies raised their tiny paws and waved at the courier in perfect synchronization. The purple particles' brightness intensified, and in a blink, they all exploded in a blinding flash. Ryan had to squint, though he managed to see a shadow inside the light. Through it he saw hints of impossible geometries, shifting spaces and doors to other alien worlds. A crossroads between realities, whose existence defied the physics of mankind's universe. He had entered the purple world. The shadow grew in size as if Ryan approached it. It vaguely looked like an inverted pyramid covered in eye-shaped spheres, though the courier couldn't work the details through the purple light. However, he could tell it was colossal in size. A flying structure the size of a planet, maybe a star. No. Not a structure. A living being. The godlike entity looked at Ryan with its countless eyes, and it was May 8, 2020, a brand new day in Rome. His hands on the driving wheel, Ryan immediately parked at the nearest spot and glanced through the window. Cars passed by his Plymouth Fury and made their way towards the glitzy city, ready to gamble their souls to win fortunes in its glamorous casinos. Mount Augustus and Dynamis HQ stood proud, two would-be nations facing each other. Ryan observed his surroundings, trying to gather his thoughts. He had traded the armor for his usual clothes, and after checking, confirmed that everything was back in its proper place. Either the entity had killed him, or it activated a failsafe in the genome's own ability. And no sign of Vulcan either. She was supposed to call him immediately should she somehow manage to travel back in time, and so far, his phone had remained silent. Jasmine hadn't made it through. Well, Ryan let out a deep, sad sigh. That was a failure. The time traveler wasn't surprised, just disappointed. At least Ryan had managed to go back after all, instead of accidentally making a new save. It had only cost him a trusted friend, and everything else. But the genome had a chance to make things right, and he wouldn't waste it. Gathering his breath, Ryan put on the chronoradio, and prepared to make his way towards Renesco's place. I still think we're alone in the universe. Ryan stopped, as Len's voice came out of the chronoradio. It's all dark and cold beyond our little blue planet. We aren't alone, Ryan's own voice answered through the radio. And if you ask me, the stars shine brighter still. The courier behind the wheel froze, as he heard himself discuss with Len through the radio. It didn't take him long to realize what was happening. He listened to a recording. A recording of that conversation with Len, on the orphanage's roof. How? He didn't record it, and neither did Shorty as far as he knew. How did it travel back in time? Did Len manage to send a recording through her device before Mekran's satellite claimed her life? Or was it that strange entity's doing? Whatever the case, the whole orphanage conversation repeated perfectly, as Ryan had experienced it. Eventually, the courier's own words echoed in his car. It can improve. Len, all you see is the dark, but everywhere you look, there's light. Yes. Even if the world held much sorrow, it was also worth saving. Ryan pushed the accelerator and drove towards New Rome, to begin again. It didn't matter how many tries it would take, how many false starts and bad endings he would have to go through. He had a city to save, and a perfect run to complete. The courier had made a promise to Vulcan, and he would keep it. 50. Past fragment, How to Tame Your Plushie. Spring 2018, farm near Firenze, Italy. An 18-year-old Ryan Romano kicked the laboratory's door open, naked as the day he was born. Brain dead, he shouted, raising a rabbit plushie above his head. I did it! I did it! His roommate Alchemo, who had been busy operating on an extracted dog's brain, raised his head at Ryan. This lanky cyborg had bones made of brass, steel pumps for organs, and glass for veins. His hands ended with syringes. A brain and two green eyes floated in its glass dome of a skull, glaring at the time traveler. Why are you naked, you shameless exhibitionist? The voice that came out of the cyborg speaker was annoyed, but not surprised. Have you let your base, biological urges run wild yet again? Yes, but no. Ryan replied happily, waving his new invention at the cybernetic genius. I just couldn't wait to show you the truth. The cyborg looked at the beautiful toy without a word. For a moment, the only sound that echoed in the workshop was that of computers. The genius's laboratory was a true den of mad science, a chaotic gallery of brains in jars, tubes full of multicolored, chemical substances, and experimental weed strains. The chronoradio awaited on a table nearby, hooked to an artificial brain and a miniature particle accelerator. What is this? Alchemo finally asked. A scavenged children's toy? The test probe. Ryan replied proudly. It's way more imaginative than another rover. And why a Legomorph plushie, exactly? Well, it's cute. If the dimension is inhabited, it will lull the locals into complacency. To prove it, Ryan flipped the back switch, waking up the plushie. Its blue eyes shone with artificial light, and it immediately played a pre-recorded message, I love you. See? Ryan asked. It comes with lasers and is programmed to protect children under the age of 13. It's completely safe. Sometimes I wonder if your neural connections are damaged beyond repair, Alchemo said, absent-mindedly finishing his current surgery. But it is as you wish. Alchemo, or Brain Dead as Ryan liked to call him, was a genius with a special focus on neural technology. Brain-machine interfaces, brains in a jar, sensory drugs, if it involved neurons, he could do it. Ryan had known him for over 2 years, at least from his point of view. They even started a drug cartel together in a previous loop, though that venture ended with Ryan shot by one of his maddened customers. But it was fun. Maybe Ryan will dedicate this new loop to make their rampage startup work this time? In any case, the time traveler had dedicated the last decade or so to mastering genius tech, learning from the best. With enough knowledge, the time traveler hoped he could find a way to travel further back in time, before he drank his elixir. Progress was slow but worthwhile. Alchemo in particular might finally find a way to make the chronoradio work. Romano. Yes? Put something on before the doll sees you, the genius all but ordered his roommate. You already corrupted her mind enough with your body enhancements. You're just jealous of my android design talent. I fail to see the use in mammaries in an asexual gynoid construct, Alchemo replied icily, completely missing the point. Anyway, toss that thing into the accelerator. You still will not tell me the purpose of these experiments? You wouldn't believe me if I told you, Ryan replied, moving towards the device. The mini particle accelerator took the shape of a small metal tube with a hatch, hooked to the chronoradio. Ryan quickly opened it and put the plushie inside, like a child in an escape pod. We won't know unless you try, Alchemo grumbled. Well, maybe Ryan could? Most of the people he confided in during the early loops didn't believe him, but Brain Dead had grown more and more open-minded in the Violet Genomes Company. "How about I tell you if the experiment is a success?" the courier asked, before remembering something important. "Also, you should stop abusing that meta-boost drug you designed. The side effects will catch up to you." "How do you know? Were you looking into my stash?" "You thief, I should have you expelled from my property." Sure, Ryan replied, knowing the cranky genius's bark was worse than his bite. "All right, so the particle accelerator should send the plushie to that alternate dimension I told you about. It is equipped with a camera and the best artificial intelligence hardware I could find." Knowing you, that's not saying much. Ryan eventually put on a red shawl around his waist, though only because Brain Dead refused to activate the machine unless he covered his most powerful weapon. Once they were ready, Alchemo transformed his fingers from syringes to USB keys and hooked himself to a computer. The particle accelerator made a terrible sound as it activated, like the roar of a living engine. "So far so good," Brain Dead said, processing data directly into his brain. "Energy readings are stable." "Did it teleport?" Ryan asked, hands clenched in excitement. "I wouldn't say it teleports, but it coexists in 2 dimensions so long as the accelerator is active," Brain Dead replied with what could pass for a shrug. "Are you sure you want that device hooked to a car's engine? Seems like a waste of promising technology." "Oh, I'm certain. If the accelerator managed to send the plushie into another dimension, then it should allow the Plymouth Fury to do the same." Ryan could settle for an alternate Earth where his family and Len were both still alive. "Have you watched Back to the Future?" "I don't watch movies, I live them." "Oh, right, the old genius hooked his brain to artificial ones to experience false memories." Ryan himself wondered if he should enter the market considering his wealth of experience, though 2/3 of his past would be rated 18+. Eventually, the noise from the particle accelerator lessened and finally subsided completely. Ryan expected to find the plushie missing, but instead, a brief, violet flash suddenly erupted from the accelerator the second he opened the hatch. When it subsided, his creation looked up at its maker with its big, beautiful blue eyes. Ryan blinked, the plushie tilting its head to the side. "Brainy, are you controlling my rabbit from afar?" Ryan asked, the plushie raising its ears as if it was a living being, instead of a stylized exploration probe. "Let's play together," said the plushie, raising its tiny hands on its own. The time traveler started hearing sound coming from the robot, strange whispers the time traveler couldn't decipher. Was the speaker broken? "Why would I touch that dirty thing, except with a stick?" Alchemo replied, disengaging from the computer to observe this furry wonder of engineering. "Perhaps the energy blast fried the hardware?" The plushie glared at the genius, its blue eyes turning red.
Aw.
It could even make an angry FA. Zap! Alchemo's glass skull exploded as a laser went through it, vaporizing the brain inside. Ryan barely had the time to cover his head with his arms, shards cutting his skin while the cyborg's body collapsed to the ground. The rabbit's eyes shone with malice, the hidden lasers within having activated on their own. "Damn it, that's the 5th time." Ryan complained, looking at Alchemo's remains. "5th time I got him killed." The plushie clearly didn't think it did anything wrong. "Let's go to Disneyland." "Not today," Ryan replied, deeming this experiment a failure. "Now I have to reload before Doll finds him." With a sigh, the courier casually headbutted the nearest jar and used a glass shard to slice his own throat. Ryan woke up a few minutes earlier, gazing into a blue abyss. The plushie looked back at the time traveler, orienting its ears at him instead of attacking immediately. What happened? Why did Ryan reload now instead of the day before? He hadn't created a new save point since yesterday night. Did the experiment force him to save on reflex? Whatever the case, Ryan was sure it remembered. It is still in our dimension? Alchemo replied, moving towards the accelerator to look at Death once more. Is the hardware still functional? The plushie's eyes turned red yet again. Ryan immediately attempted to activate the switch on its back and save the genius, but the plushie hopped out of the particle accelerator and onto a nearby table. Alien voices echoed through the room as the rabbit's left hand revealed a hidden blade, which it quickly raised at Ryan. Wait, you equipped it with a switchblade? Alchemo asked. Also, you have a weird choice in sound design for that thing. It was for self-defense only. Ryan replied, wondering if he should just use a time stop and be done with it. But he couldn't figure out what happened for the life of him. The time traveler didn't program the plushie to react like this. Had the accelerator damaged the hardware inside? It was as if something else, something intelligent, controlled it from afar. Ryan's eyes wandered to the plushie's shadow, and he realized it didn't belong to a rabbit anymore. The shape didn't fit any creature of this world, but that of a monster with tentacles, appendages, and impossible geometry defying comprehension. Okay. The good news, the particle accelerator worked. Somewhat. Bad news, it had worked in reverse, bringing something in instead of sending a probe out. What is all this racket? A new voice echoed in the workshop as its door slowly widened, and a red-headed, green-eyed woman walked in. While she looked normal at first glance, with a lovely heart-shaped face, one only had to give a cursory glance at her arms to realize her true nature, that of a lifelike mannequin, animated through technology. Doll was a robot, a gynoid animated by an artificial brain created by Alchemo, one advanced enough to pass the Turing test. Though he pretended to have created her to assist him in his work, Quicksave was sure the genius actually wanted human company. Brainy might have let go of his physical needs, but emotional ones were another matter entirely. Still, Alchemo had only equipped her with a human face, a featureless body, and called it quits. It had fallen to Ryan to make her body truly human-like, in all the ways that mattered. He even gave her a name. Back off. Ryan shouted, the plushie hiding its switchblade arm behind its back and changing its eyes from red to blue. Even the alien voices had suddenly fallen silent. It's dangerous. Dangerous to you, mayhaps, Alchemo mused, none the wiser. Methinks you cannot control your own creations. Dangerous? T looked at the plushie, immediately joining her hands together. It is so adorable, what are you hiding behind your back? The plushie slowly revealed his hand. But instead of a switchblade, it held a rose. I love you, it said to T. The gynoid couldn't help but gush, as she took the flower. Wait, Ryan thought, where did it find a rose in this lifeless dump? Thank you, Doll said, petting the plushie behind the ears. It is adorable. Step away from the rabbit, Ryan pleaded. You don't know where it has been. But look at it, it's cute, the gynoid replied, holding the rabbit on her shoulder like a child, and the tiny monster didn't resist. She looked at Alchemo, who had observed the scene with some degree of amusement. Can I keep it, father? If you want, doll, the genius replied with a grunt, uncaring. Do as you wish with it. Hey, wait, you can't dispose of my stuff like that. Ryan protested. Stop stealing from my medicine stash, and we'll talk. The plushie looked at Ryan over Doll's shoulders, its eyes turning from blue to red. Eventually, what was bound to happen, happened. A containment breach. Research log B-101, Ryan told himself, fully dressed and rifle in hand. He didn't record anything though, he just wanted to monologue. My hunt for the plushie continues. The beast has eluded capture so far, but I do not despair. The plushie had used its cuteness to lull T into a false sense of safety, and then immediately ran away when she wasn't looking. Ryan had followed its trail for over 3 days. It wasn't difficult. He just had to follow the corpses, strung to trees with their own intestines. The beast is learning, Ryan observed. The first ropes had been crudely designed, collapsing under the weight of their owner. The newest ones were thicker, stronger, more complex. Though it appears to focus its unbridled hostility towards humans. While the rabbit attacked Alchemo on sight, T didn't trigger a hostile reaction. Ryan had also crossed paths with animals like wild dogs and hares during the search, yet none had perished at the plushie's vicious claws. Perhaps it found humans to be the most dangerous game of all, or something about Homo sapiens infuriated the creature on an instinctual level. Eventually, Ryan tracked the plushie to a farm closest to Alchemo's. He didn't have to look too hard, he had heard the voices when he approached the area. He found the farm's owner, a woman named Sarah, tied up on a bed of broken wood right in front of her barn. The plushie had shoved an apple down her throat, like a pig ready for roasting. The responsible party stood next to her, eyes crimson and white fur drenched in blood. It seemed to struggle with lighting a match with its associated box, while its captive looked at Ryan with pleading eyes. "Bad rabbit!" Ryan shouted, raising his rifle at the monster he had created. "Drop the match!" The rabbit looked back at the time traveler and finally lit a match. "Don't do it," Ryan warned, keeping the rifle aimed at the creature's head. In response, the plushie dangled the match over the woodpile, seemingly entertained by the woman's muffled cries. "I know violence solves many problems, but not all of them." "Mom?" Ryan and the plushie looked at the barn, a blonde child no older than 10 peeking through the door. A tense standoff between an armed man and a murderous rabbit, with his mom in the middle. Well, this must have been quite an embarrassing sight. Child detected. The rabbit's eyes turned blue, and the alien voices fell silent. Entering cute mode. The rabbit instantly dropped everything to rush at the child, the lit match falling towards the woodpile and the captive. With supreme marksmanship honed through countless restarts, Ryan managed to shoot the match with the rifle, blowing it out before it could set the victim ablaze. The child screamed and stumbled as the plushie powered through the barn's doors. "You are my best friend," said the rabbit, grabbing onto the screaming child's leg with its bloody hands. "Let's hug." Ryan briefly worried for the child, but thankfully, besides refusing to let the kid's ankle go, the rabbit didn't attack in any way. The plushie's programming kept working, preventing it from attacking children under 13 and activating the protection subroutine. Now, the time traveler just had to free the captive, pull the switch, and everything would return to normal. Pop. Ryan blinked, unsure if he was experiencing hallucinations. For while the blood-drenched rabbit still held on tight to its new, and unwilling, best friend, a second, white snow plushie had appeared out of nowhere, looking at Ryan with its big blue eyes. That wasn't good at all. Research log C011. Well, actually, now wasn't the time to monologue. Though only a ruin after the world ended, Firenze had only a few days ago welcomed a population of refugees, trying to rebuild the city. Dynamis had an enclave there, and even Augustus drug cartel had a presence in the area. But today, Ryan didn't see any humans as he walked through the city's empty streets. He didn't hear a sound. But he wasn't alone. Everywhere around him, white forms occupied every corner of the city. Rabbits. Rabbit plushies, everywhere. On the roofs, on the ground, behind the windows. None made a sound or even twitched. They just watched Ryan, as if they were all mere drones bound by a singular intelligence. Well, Ryan said, I fucked up. It seemed that the child had triggered a new pattern in the creature. Perhaps its sheer happiness allowed it to divide, or it summoned alternate versions of itself from other universes. Whatever the case, the plushie had started reproducing. And like all rabbits, the plushie multiplied exponentially. By the time Ryan had tracked the second one to Forenza half a week after the farm incident, it was already too late. The time traveler wasn't sure what happened to the city's population, but he had no intention of finding out. "All right, I just doomed humanity yet again," the time traveler said, sighing before looking for a rope to hang himself with while the rabbits watched. "I shouldn't make it a habit." During the next loop, Ryan went to sleep with a clear mind, happy to have contained the dangerous anomaly. In the end, Ryan dealt with the plushie by activating his time stop and flipping the switch off the moment he reloaded. The creature possessing it might seem capable of remembering his past loops, yet it remained bound to its host body's programming. Sort of. As it turned out, the accelerator had fried the hardware, damaging the camera. Not only could Ryan not extract any information about whichever dimension the plushie had been exposed to, the robot shouldn't even function. Why did it follow the original programming if the CPU no longer worked? Ryan himself didn't remember how he made the plushie in the first place, and half of its pieces didn't make sense on a closer look. It had been a stroke of inspiration, born of his raw nakedness. Perhaps the plushie's behavior was caused by its mechanical part, or by the abomination now using it as an anchor on Earth, or perhaps a combination of both. Ryan hesitated about destroying his creation, considering its threat to the world at large, but decided to keep it. It could prove an amusing last resort weapon, and he was curious about its true nature. Also, destroying the plushie might release whatever dwelled inside into their reality. Even Ryan wasn't crazy enough to try. In any case, the courier closed his eyes, dreaming about new adventures and how he would tell Braindead the truth. The plushie looked down from the bedside table, inactive. For hours, there was no movement in the room. Even the noises coming from Alchemo's workshop stopped. The genius ended his hard day's work with a moment of relaxation, replaying harvested memories from before the war. And then, with the slightest click sound, the plushie's off switch flipped to on. Without making any noise, the plushie hopped on the bed, leaning over the sleeping Ryan. The courier's slumber was too deep for him to notice, even as the shadow of death approached. The plushie observed its human creator without a sound, watching his chest rise up with his breath. "I will always be your friend," the plushie finally said. It raised the bedsheet to keep Ryan warm and then sat on the nearest pillow. The switch moved from on to off, and the plushie played statues. They would have so much fun together. 51, route split. "So, let me get this straight," Wyvern asked, floating above the street outside Ryan's hotel bedroom. "You came to New Rome hunting for the Meta Gang, who managed to uncover a cache of Mecran tech beneath Rust Town. You also strongly believe that someone in Dynamis, probably Hector, namely, my employer, hired them to harass the Augusti." "Pretty much, yes." Ryan nodded, wearing nothing but his underwear. Wyvern smiled. "Am I being pranked?" Was it because Ryan refused to wear a shirt? He had been replicating the plans for Vulcan's armor when the superhero knocked on his window to make her sales pitch. "I would like to joke about it, but no, I'm serious." The courier raised a thumb up. "Honest." Wyvern crossed her arms, a frown on her face. "Do you have any proof? These are dangerous allegations." "You can ask Ghoul," Ryan said, pointing at a cooler next to his bed. "He makes the best ice cream." The superheroine's frown only deepened. "But you didn't let the private security bring him in custody." "I won't surrender my favorite cooler," Ryan replied. "Or else your incorruptible mooks will let him escape." "This meeting is going as well as I thought it would," Wyvern lamented. "Let's assume for a second that this isn't some conspiracy theory and that I believe you. Why are you telling me this?" "Because somebody trusted you." "Somebody?" Wyvern put her hands on her waist. Quick save, it will be difficult for us to build a degree of trust if you play your cards close to the chest. All in all, I find your tale rather flimsy. Well, she said you were naive too, Ryan said and shrugged. I will not set aside what you said, but I only have your word on it. While you have a reputation for reliability, your psych evaluation implies you are highly unstable and prone to attention-seeking behavior.
Duh.
You can't make life a comedy without an audience. If you're alone, it's just a tragedy. Wyvern sighed, before offering Ryan the Dynamis business card anyway. While I'm not sure you will follow through after what you just said, I suggest you meet with my manager. See if you are a good match, clear this up. I hope he won't mind if I bring a bottle of weed killer? Wyvern couldn't help but chuckle in response. I wouldn't try if I were you. Enrique isn't fond of aggressive negotiations. And with those unwise words, Dragon Mom flew away and left the courier alone. She didn't believe Ryan, but at least the superheroine gave him the benefit of the doubt. It didn't surprise the courier all that much. Wyvern didn't know him well yet, and had been doubtful even with Mosquito's testimony in an earlier loop. And at long last, Vulcan called immediately afterward. Ryan briefly hesitated to take the call, worried about how it would go. He eventually braced himself for the impact and answered. Quick save deliveries? What did the bitch tell you? Vulcan's encrypted voice asked. The mere sentence sent a chill down the courier's spine. He had heard it before. My name is Vulcan, the caller continued. I represent the Augusti. We are the organization that runs things in New Rome, and most of Italy. Whatever the winged lizard promised you, we can offer more. We need people who get things done. Ryan listened to his former girlfriend the way one did a recording. I'm sorry, mystery voice, he interrupted her sales pitch. But have we met before? Vulcan didn't answer immediately. Perhaps he had called her out on a bluff. Perhaps she was toying with him, only to reveal that the armor had worked. That for once, things would be different. Her next words hit him like a hammer. I think I would remember if we did. And like that, the last ember of Ryan's hope died out. Anyway, if you're interested, I sent you the Bakuto's coordinates, Vulcan said, Ryan not even bothering to check the email notification. We own the establishment. Come tonight, alone, and don't make us wait. We never ask twice. Yet, she just did. More than twice. Door-to-door salesmanship was difficult. You traveled for miles to pitch the perfect product to rednecks, only to be threatened with bodily harm. A hand on a blue cooler, Ryan faced his meanest customer yet. What did you just say? Shroud asked his visitor, a glass shard aimed at Ryan's throat while his shack's computer servers hummed in the background. It was so cute, how he thought the courier actually cared. That for one ghoul cooler bought, you get one free, Mecran-made orbital laser. Ryan opened the box, with Ghoul's skull glaring at him from within. Made by third-world children paid 5 cents per hour and sold at the mere price of $90, this cooler is perfect for all and any improvised pick. Cut the chit-chat, Mr. See-Through-All but ordered. Maddie, my friend, the sales won't last forever, Ryan mocked him. You're wasting a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The shard pushed against Ryan's throat, threatening to draw blood. You think knowing my name gives you power? Shroud threatened. I was ready to risk discovery when I came to New Rome, and I fear nothing. So last warning, spill the beans. Cannibal Adam is trying to access the control panel of a Mecran-made orbital satellite, called the Baja. Ryan tried to look for the exact name. The Bahamut. The shack's windows all fractured when he said the word. Shroud remained silent for a while, before removing the shard aimed at his guest's throat. He sank on his chair in front of the shack's computers, hands clenched. Okay, the vigilante finally said, at a loss of words. Okay, how did you know that name? Well, as you guessed, I can see into parallel timelines, and select the one which favors me the most, Ryan lied. While he had grown to know the glass manipulator through the various loops, he was still wary of confiding in him so early in their relationship. I've seen some ugly ones. One where Adam the ogre gets his hands on the Bahamut. The mere thought made the vigilante flinch in dread. Wow. Ryan had never seen him startled that much before. That could only mean one thing. You believe me? Nobody but the people involved in the Mecran raid knew about the satellite, Shroud declared. It's possible there was a leak from someone like Nidhogg, but you haven't been in contact with any of the survivors as far as I know. Also, if you wished to deceive me, you would have found something less outlandish. Hey, are you implying I'm not naturally outlandish? Ryan asked with mock outrage. I'm shocked, I tell you, shocked. No, you aren't, Shroud replied, his fingers fidgeting. The news really had him worried. Why are you telling me this? So you can tell your living son to hurry up because I can't destroy the bunker alone. At least not yet. What is taking him so long anyway? Shroud let out a sigh. Regularly fighting threats of Augustus caliber means our team has a lot of turnovers. After our last outing, the Carnival doesn't have the numbers to take on the Augusti. We have heavy hitters, but so do our enemies. That explained their tactics. Why rely on asymmetrical warfare to weed out the enemy if you were in a position of strength? So, your leader is recruiting? He's calling in favors from old allies, but they can't leave their own protectorates for long, Shroud admitted. Leo didn't feel confident he could have everyone on board before the end of May.
Yeah.
Well, Hanifat Lecter is probably less than 2 weeks away from success too, Ryan added, like the cherry on the cake. The Metagang destroyed New Rome on May 18th, though the courier doubted it would happen on the same date again. Tell your son to rise faster. I will scout Rust Town and interrogate Ghoul. If I confirm your intel, Shroud joined his hands, his fingers intertwined. If you are correct, then we can't afford to wait, no. How long? A few days at most. Oh. Well, that went a lot better than expected. Ryan thought he would have to argue for hours, but the threat was dangerous enough for the Carnival to finally throw caution to the wind. If it's confirmed, I will contact you. Well, then, I will infiltrate the Augusti and deliver on my end of the bargain, Ryan said while moving towards the door, leaving the boxed ghoul behind. You still owe me $90 for the cooler. No, the vigilante replied, trying to shortchange the courier. Maddie, I don't do charity. No, as in, the Augusti will wait, Mr. See-Through declared firmly, much to Ryan's surprise. If you are correct and Dynamis hired the Metagang, then this may only be the tip of the iceberg. Wyvern offered you a chance to join Il Miglior. Take it and keep me informed. Ryan put both hands on his waist. What about your planned hits on the Augusti? Because I won't oblige unless I have your word that you won't target a few. We don't have resources to wage war on both the Augusti and Dynamis if it turns out they're the Metagang's employers, Shroud declared, although it clearly wounded him to admit it. Augustus is a monster and his business kills thousands each year, but he will sit on his mountain unless challenged. That bunker is an urgent crisis. So, you will stop your serial apartment bombing spree until we've downsized Dynamis? How do you know about that? Mr. See-Through shook his head. Whatever. You have my word. At least, until Mecran's legacy is put to rest once and for all. Well, time for a Dynamis run then. It was better this way. Ryan wasn't sure he could stand an Augusti run so soon after losing Jasmine. Sometimes, he wondered why he kept clinging to false hopes when clearly the odds didn't favor him. Time and time again, the courier had thought he could confide in someone, and not have it all wiped away with his inevitable death. Yet he kept reopening old wounds, instead of just letting it go. I guess hope is a scoundrel's last refuge, Ryan muttered to himself, exiting Shroud's shack with a heavy heart. Hope was all he had, once the loop had stripped him away of everything. Ryan moved to his Plymouth Fury, only to find someone had beaten him to it. A white, Persian cat slouched on the car hood, his magnificent blue eyes dazzling Ryan with the splendor of their nobility. The creature meowed ferociously at the courier, who immediately recognized him. Eugene Henry? Ryan approached the Plymouth Fury, examining the cat carefully. Yes, it was Eugene Henry. The courier could recognize the noble animal's lazy, prideful attitude anywhere. How could it be? The cat should be in the orphanage at this moment, and he never showed up at the old harbor in any previous loop. What was happening? Eugene Henry let out a loud meow sound, demanding to be petted. So Ryan obliged, raising his hand to scratch the animal between the ears. Pop. Ryan's hand touched only air. There was no flash, no warning. 1 second, the cat was right in front of him, the next he had vanished. Was he hallucinating? Or... Wait, Eugene Henry had been exposed to violet dimension energies at the end of the previous loop, even perhaps that strange alien entity the courier had briefly glimpsed. Could they have changed him somehow? Ryan knew cats were superior creatures, especially compared to dogs, but could these furballs truly gain superpowers like a genome? He had to go to the orphanage and check on the cat, just to be sure. Ryan sat on the driving seat, and prepared to make a short trip to Rust Town before meeting with his favorite cashmere supplier. Riri. At least, that's what he planned for until her voice came out of the chronoradio. And this time, it wasn't pre-recorded. Ryan's fingers clenched around the driving wheel, and he moved the car away, to get out of Shroud's range. He had no intention of letting the vigilante eavesdrop on private matters. Shorty. For an agonizing minute, Len didn't seem to know what to say while Ryan drove through New Rome's crowded streets. Finally, she mustered her courage. I heard the broadcast. Through your chronoradio. She did? Of course she did, she had been listening to his communications since he arrived in New Rome. All these years, he had hoped for someone that could remember him. And now. Is it true? She asked. Can you time travel?
Yeah.
The courier said bluntly, tensing up. He should have felt relieved, even happy by that unforeseen development, but the barrier between them had risen up again. The loop had washed away all their progress. It happened before. I don't know how the recording went through time though. Maybe Len had managed to complete her invention before the Bahamut wiped Ischia Island off the map, or it was a side effect of Ryan's own experiment. Len considered the news, before asking another question. Why didn't you repeat it? Repeat that conversation, you mean? You and I, he could almost picture her biting her lower lip on the other end of the line. It worked before. It could have worked again. I told you before, Ryan said with a sigh, though that didn't make much sense from her point of view. The breakdown that led to this conversation had been genuine. If I repeated it, it would have been fake. Even if it worked, if it was necessary for us to become friends again, it would have been manipulation. Though it killed him inside, he couldn't replace the Jasmine he lost either. Ryan may see it as mere amnesia, his old girlfriend had a point. If you forgot actions you didn't commit yet and chose to go on another path, were you truly the same person? Or would you become someone else? I guess I wanted our relationship to remain true, Ryan admitted, speaking with the heart. Even if it hurts. He knew it was a lot to ask for, but that was what the courier wanted above everything else. He didn't want to save the world or anything like this, though he would. Ultimately, all that Ryan desired was to be happy. "Where are you going, Riri?" Len asked, her voice breaking. She tried to keep her composure, but his words had clearly affected her. "To the orphanage," he said. "I have to check up on something. And make sure the kids will be all right." Psyshock was alive again, and if Ryan committed to Dynami's this loop, he couldn't rely on Cancel to kill the bastard permanently. He had to figure a way out of this conundrum. Another short silence. "I will be there too." 52, chance meetings. No matter what Wyvern said, Enrique Blackthorn Manada had to be a sinister criminal mastermind. As he waltzed into the man's office, Ryan realized it wasn't just his fashion sense or icy behavior. Almost all the plants the green genome collected were poisonous, and one of the fish in his Japanese pond was a fugu pufferfish, infamous for its neurotoxins. Though Ryan knew from experience it tasted wonderful, if prepared well.
Yeah.
Nothing suspicious about this man. "I am Enrique Manada, Dynami's CBO and head manager of the Il Miglior program. Though you seem to already know that." The manager shook Ryan's hand after rising from behind his desk. "I am surprised you agreed to meet with us. Wyvern wasn't very optimistic after your last exchange." "Well, I thought I should ask you directly why your organization hired the Meta Gang," Ryan said bluntly. "I figured we would lose way less time this way." His sheer frankness silenced Blackthorn on the spot. It seemed Wyvern hadn't informed him of Ryan's conspiracy theories. Enrique hung back in his chair, quietly angry. He didn't invite Ryan to sit, but the courier did so anyway. "Where does this nonsense come from? I saw them with dozens of crates filled with Dynami's made knockoffs. It looked like a Black Friday sale." "Seen, Mr. Romano? With your own two eyes?" Enrique's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Do you have any tangible evidence? Photos, samples?" "I have this," Ryan said, happily giving the manager a paper file he had prepared just for the occasion. "Here is the proof that some of your knockoff elixirs went missing, disguising off-the-books deliveries to the Meta Gang." The manager all but stole the documents from the time traveler's hand. Now was the moment of truth. If Enrique had Ryan killed on the spot or later that day, then he was clearly corrupt. Blackthorn carefully reviewed the files without a word. However, the flowers in his office seemed to become more and more agitated as he read. Like Matty Boy, his power seemed to automatically react to his emotional state, no matter how hard the green genome tried to hide it. "How did you obtain these documents?" Enrique asked while halfway through his review, his tone sharp. "I hacked into your databases," Ryan replied. "Well, technically, Shroud did it, and the courier borrowed the documents. You know I could have you jailed for this?" "Jailed? Not killed? Don't whistleblowers get legal protection in New Rome?" "No," Blackthorn replied, putting aside the documents. "Any other information you stole from our company?" "Now that I think of it, some of your doggy drones ended up in the Metagang's hands," Ryan remembered. "You shouldn't leave that stuff laying around." Enrique looked at his guest without a word for a few seconds, then brought a cell phone out of his suit. He typed a number and called, though Ryan didn't hear the person on the other end. "I have been informed some of our drones have gone missing lately, probably repurposed by the Metagang," Enrique asked. "Do you confirm?" Huh. Why wasn't I informed?" "I see. I understand, don't worry, pack your things, you're fired." The last part was said so casually, to the point Ryan almost didn't catch it. Enrique ended the call and focused back on the courier. "All right, Mr. Romano, let's cut to the chase," he said, done with the niceties. "What do you want?" For Hannafat Lecter to have a botched lipo. Why? Revenge? Your psychological profile tells me you are no selfless vigilante. You know, if you had asked me a few weeks ago I would say it isn't personal, that it's just business, Ryan said, before remembering Len and countless others vanishing as the Bahamut's light struck New Rome. But it is personal now. It really is. I see, Enrique said, doing a mastermind's pause. I do not appreciate the methods you use to gather this information, but I will admit, it worries me. However, you understand that if the Meta Gang has a sponsor inside Dynamis, it is someone in a high place. Probably from the board. You say it like I should be worried. Yes, because it means people in my own department could be compromised. For all you know, I could be involved. So why did you come to me? Ryan shrugged. Frankly, Greenhand, I thought it was a coin toss. A lot of people thought you were clean, but if you tried and failed to have me killed, at least I would know where you stood. And Ryan remembered his last discussion with the man, before Ischia Island's destruction. Whatever Blackthorn may be, he seemed to have a vision of the future that didn't involve people like the Meta or Augustus. Arrogant, aren't you? Enrique said with a snicker. Now, how does Lan Sabino fit in this? I know you established contact with her shortly after your arrival in New Rome. Wait, you had me followed? It wounded Ryan, who thought he had mastered counterintelligence tactics. Dynamis keeps the underdiver under close surveillance, Enrique explained. We know she went to that orphanage in Rust Town a few hours before this meeting, and you visited the district around the same time. I do not believe it is a coincidence. It couldn't have been communications monitoring, or he would have learned about the time loop. In all likelihood, Dynamis surveyed Shorty's underwater base and trailed her wherever she left it. Wait, Ryan said, making a connection. That's how Adam knew about the underwater base, you paranoid dicks. I am not sure I understand, but if we assume the Metagang benefits from a Dynamis executive's assistance as your evidence implies, then, yes, they probably know about her underwater base. I assume you want to protect Miss Sabino? Yes, Ryan conceded, his voice turning serious. But if you think you can threaten her to make me behave, you'll die the way of the dinosaurs. I have no such intention, Enrique replied, though the courier couldn't tell if he was honest. But I want to know your motivations, and if I can trust you. You possess a useful power, but are also psychologically unstable. I have to see if you are worth the risks. Considering your motives, I do not think you are a long-term asset either. I like to think of myself as a speculative investment. Enrique adopted a diabolical mastermind pose, making Ryan really wonder if he was truly clean. You put me in a difficult position, he said. The circumstantial evidence you gathered implies corruption in my organization, and the responsible party might be someone with more clout than I. Investigating the matter will necessitate a high degree of trust, and with a few exceptions, I am not sure on whom we can rely on. Say no more, I can be your semi-loyal secret agent. Ryan happily suggested. My car is even classier than an Aston Martin. Enrique considered the offer, before reaching a conclusion. I will be honest, I do not like you, Romano, he said bluntly. But you seem set on investigating this, and I have the intuition it will cost Dynamis to let you act without supervision. And he was probably right. Here's how things will work between us, Romano. You will join Il Miglior's junior division for a 6-month trial period, under my direct supervision. We will not apply a DNA tracker until we have recovered the lost drones. Considering your reputation, nobody will blink at these conditions. But make no mistake, our association will be on my terms. Every piece of information you uncover will find its way to this desk. You do as I ask, no questions asked. And you will not hack the company's assets without my authorization. Am I clear? Under 3 conditions, Ryan replied, raising his fingers. First, I keep my name. It's a copyrighted brand. I doubt you will be with us long enough to become a team mainstay, so you can call yourself Timestamp for all I care, Enrique replied dismissively. What next? You don't mess with the underdiver. Ever. Enrique hesitated for a few seconds. Ryan was starting to suspect something was up. She was too minor a player for Dynamis to care so much about her. Granted, unless she or you call for our help first, the manager said, though with great reluctance. And the last condition? Ryan looked at the man dead in the eyes. I want a purple cashmere suit. With a matching tie. Enrique Manada joined his hands and considered the courier's words. His response was swift and merciless. Denied. One just doesn't say no to cashmere, Ryan warned, his tone turning dangerous. You will meet with wardrobe tomorrow, and she will make you a hero costume, Enrique replied dismissively. She will be your goddess as far as fashion goes. She will decide. And if I'm a non-believer? Then the kids' marketing subdivision will design the costume, Enrique said. Over the years, they have learned to do their job with ruthless efficiency. That was unbelievably cruel and wrong. I knew you were soulless, but I didn't understand how much. That's part of the job, Enrique replied dryly, before calling his secretary through an interphone. Summon Devilry and Wyvern for a meeting, and inform the vice president that I want a call. Tell them this cannot wait. Sir, you already have a rendezvous with a new hero candidate planned, warned the secretary. Who? The panda. Who? Enrique repeated, though the courier had the feeling he was merely playing coy. The panda, defender of the innocent, Ryan declared, offended by the corpo's utter lack of knowledge. He can fly and shoot lasers from his eyes. I doubt that, Blackthorn replied dryly. In response, Ryan joined his fingers. You don't know much about pandas, do you? Is that so? Enrique replied, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Then I guess you won't mind taking him under your wing? Considering his poor track record, I was considering giving the panda a chance to impress us, but certainly surviving your presence will be a test in itself. Huh? That explained why the panda ended up picking a fight at Vulcan's factory. Greenhand must have asked him to capture a villain or something. So you do know him. Wyvern believes he has potential, and Dr. Tyranno thinks his power has interesting applications for his work. However, he seems incompetent. I worry he might make any team he joins look bad. Trust me, sir, Ryan said, when I'm done with him, you will never look at pandas the same way ever again. Well then, the both of you will be a package deal. If he proves lacking, it will look less damaging if you were in charge of him than Wyvern. If it works, then all good. Fail and take the blame, succeed and share the credit. But do I get to choose the team's name? The manager clearly couldn't care less. I will summon you again shortly. Until then, you behave. And with these words, the manager gave Ryan a contract and dismissed him from his office. The courier walked into the waiting room, where a poor animal in human form anxiously waited. Enrique canceling their meeting seemed to have put him on edge, but he looked at Ryan with his big hopeful eyes. Panda, Ryan said, holding the contract. Why yes, sir. The would-be hero tried to look strong, but couldn't face his anxiety. He looked so cute, like a human muppet. Panda, I'm sorry to say that your candidacy, Ryan let out a long, distressed sigh. How should I put it? The panda's heart seemed to stop, as all hope disappeared from his face. Your candidacy, Ryan gave the green genome his contract. Has been accepted. For a second, the courier thought the sheer relief would make the panda faint, and he almost did. He clearly couldn't believe Dynamis had given him a chance. I've been hired? I'm going to join Il Miglior? Yes, you are, you magnificent beast. Ryan's outburst made Enrique's secretary glare at him in the background, but he ignored her. What is your name, Samurai, your real name? Timmy. I'm Timmy. It's not very Chinese, but it will do, Timmy, it will do. Ryan said, putting his hands on the man-bear's shoulders. You are now my teammate. You want me on your team? Tears started to appear in the man-bear's eyes. Somebody wants the panda on their team? How can one say no to a panda? Ryan asked rhetorically. Now, he just had to recruit Felix the cat, and he would have built the ultimate hero team to take on the meta gang. I already have our group's name. Quick save the pandas. It's a new franchise. Can we get a hero car? The poor animal asked, overwhelmed with emotion. A panda mobile? Why did Ryan have the feeling future historians would remember this moment as when his perfect run went wrong? But he couldn't say no to a panda. Of course we will get a panda mobile, so long as you don't get anywhere near my car. And we'll get movies, webtoons, tele-reality shows, our faces on noodles. I will finally be famous, and honor my panda heritage. The panda wiped away his tears, now pumped up for battle. What should I call you, Sensei? I'm Quick Save, but privately, you shall call me. Ryan's eyes widened, suddenly inspired. Super Sifu Ryan. After promising to his new sidekick that they would meet again tomorrow morning, Ryan left the Il Miglior HQ and drove away towards Rust Town. The sun was setting beyond the horizon, and night would soon come. Shorty? Ryan asked, driving the Plymouth Fury through New Rome's busy streets. Are you listening? No answer. Len? How did it go? Len replied through the chrono radio, clearing her throat. She sounded somewhat relieved to hear from him, but also anxious. I'm still convinced Blackthorn is a supervillain, but he doesn't seem to be the mastermind behind the meta gang. Though Ryan might revise his opinion if he'd mysteriously disappeared in the next few hours. They also keep you under tight surveillance. They know about the undersea habitat. Len didn't reply for several seconds, as she usually did. No matter where I go, I will never escape them, she finally said with a heavy sigh. No matter how deep I swim, their tentacles reach farther. They will never be satisfied. Hey, we'll figure a way out, Ryan promised her. And I don't think they will bother you in the short term. Ryan's hands tensed on the driver's wheel. Maybe he had been too forward. If you wish it. My door is always open if you need help, Len. Another silence followed, and Ryan realized they still had a long way to go. As it turned out, the chrono radio had recorded and played all of the duo's interactions before the last one on Ischia Island. Which meant that Len had probably recorded and sent the information herself in the previous loop. It had helped Len trust Ryan a little, even if she disagreed with his choice to approach Dynamis, enough that she let him stay at the orphanage. But a recording wasn't a personal experience, and to the courier's disappointment, it hadn't allowed their relationship to carry over from one loop to the next. It had only helped him make a little more progress in a shorter time. Eventually, Len found the silence too oppressive and changed the subject. Sarah couldn't find your cat anywhere. You're sure he gained powers? Certain. Eugene Henry had been missing from the orphanage when Ryan last visited it. Ergo, something caused a change in the noble animal's behavior. Maybe he could help with your chrono radio upgrade. I don't know, Riri. I don't know. I will need more info before I can tell if my idea will even work.
Yeah.
Ryan's goal for this loop, besides sending the metagang 6 feet under, was to get his hands on Dynami's brain scanning research. Besides weeding out whoever helped Big Fat Adam inside the company, joining Il Migliore would give the courier an opportunity to access their labs in due time. "Thanks for the help, Shorty," he said, looking at the road ahead. "I will bring reinforcements tomorrow to help deal with Psyshock." With luck, he could get his other favored cat on board. It's nothing." However, he could tell Len found the conversation straining, and she ended it abruptly. "I need to go. See you soon." "See you soon," he replied, before glancing at the pile of antidepressants in his car's back seat. This time, the courier intended to make Shorty follow an effective treatment, rather than poison herself through self-medication. She deserved as much. The path between Rust Town and Il Migliore's tower forced Ryan to go through the shopping district. Also known as Soul Street, the area was a temple to fashion, its buildings home to prestigious clothiers, luxury brands, and perfume clothes. Pedestrians walked by each other while carrying shopping bags and taking phone calls, some Ryan recognized as knockoff genomes, taking selfies of themselves showing off their purchased powers. Everyone competed to look the best, but nobody paid attention to anyone else. Of course, Quicksave's fashion sense trumped them all. Eugene Henry suddenly leaped from a street corner while pursued by a woman, right onto the Plymouth Fury's path. Ryan abruptly froze time and smashed the brake, but the cat had vanished before time even resumed. Instead, the Plymouth Fury had stopped within an inch of a pedestrian. "Hey, if you want to die to me, make an appointment first." "I'm busy," Ryan complained while looking out of the window, until he recognized the person he almost killed. A blindingly beautiful woman with long golden hair, and an extravagant dress. "How can that furball escape me?" Fortuna complained, completely ignoring the car within an inch of her skin. "Me? Fortuna, are you all right?" Livia Augusti walked out of the street, wearing a sleeveless black dress and an elegant, white rounded hat atop her platinum hair. She immediately noticed Ryan, and hastily nodded at him, clearly embarrassed. "We apologize for the commotion." "Hey, what are you two ladies doing here?" Ryan couldn't help but ask, before noticing that Livia carried a luxurious bag. They had probably been shopping. "You aren't insurance chasers, I hope?" "Because if so I will give no quarters." Livy wanted to see that cat more closely, Fortuna replied with a furious scowl, putting her hands on her waist. "Where did it go?" "I couldn't see it clearly," Livia admitted, before frowning at Ryan. "Anne. I can't see you at all." "Couldn't see, did Eugene Henry partly exist in the purple world?" It would explain his random teleportations, and the Augusti princess probably couldn't see the noble animal clearly if he existed in two realities at once. In any case, if you could step away from the road, Ryan asked Fortuna, eager to return to the orphanage. "I only run over grannies or ghoul." His dismissive tone made Fortuna look down on him, like a noble crossing path with the dirtiest of peasants. "Do you know who we are?" "No, but I know who I am, and I'll tell you." Ryan replied with an upbeat tone. "I'm Quicksave. I'm immortal, but don't tell anyone." "I don't care," Fortuna replied, irritated. Livia's frown deepened though. "Quicksave, you said?" She seemed to find the name familiar. Had Ryan's visit to Dynami's caused Vulcan to put a hit on him already? In that case, he better leave. Unfortunately, Fortuna didn't see things this way. "In any case, we need someone to drive us home, and you will do nicely," she said with a newfound smile, clearly expecting him to agree on the spot.
"Oh no."
"Sorry, I've got something planned," Ryan replied with a shrug. "Take the bus." Fortuna blinked. "I think I misheard." "Wait," She's blind, and you're deaf? Ryan asked. You cover each other? Livia couldn't help but chuckle at the joke, but Fortuna didn't find it funny. What is wrong with you? She asked Ryan as if it was only one thing. Fortuna, I will just call Sparrow, Livia said, though she didn't hide her amusement. No, Livy, he has to understand how the world works. Fortuna moved towards Ryan's car door and put her hands on the window, crossing the line. Look at me. Look at me. Ryan slowly looked at the self-entitled brat, unimpressed. She was pretty to look at for sure, but damn, her personality made the courier want to make Felix an only child. I'm the best thing that ever happened to you, and that will ever happen to you. Fortuna said it with so much confidence, Ryan was convinced she believed it too. Your whole life led you here. To bring the most beautiful woman in the world, and her best friend, home. The courier seemed to consider the offer carefully, while Fortuna's insufferable grin grew wider. Ryan said dismissively, before looking back at the road. 6 out of 10. And like that, he drove away into the sunset, leaving a speechless Fortuna and a semi-amused Livia behind. Ryan looked at the rearview mirror and noticed the Auguste princess kept watching him even as he disappeared around a street corner. She looked intrigued, for a lack of a better term.